What is up, JL Life? Model here. In today's video, we're going to be installing the Rusty's rear fascia corner protection piece from Rusty's Off-Road. Y'all stay tuned. So recently I installed the CAFAB mid-length bumper on the back of my JL, getting rid of the deviate due to issues that weren't really needing to happen were happening. The damage to the tub on this side. There's the damage on the other side. And of course, all of the prior damage. Now don't get me wrong, I'm a huge fan of this bumper. I really like it. Or a lot of people were pointing out that all of this is exposed. Now I've never had an issue hitting this area. I know this is like, that is telling me the complete opposite. Well, as I mentioned, because I came down on the back bumper, the OEM plastic one, and there was a bracket sticking out here. When this got shoved up, that bracket got shoved up and was what caused the damage. I've never had an issue hitting this, but however, it is unsightly. A lot of people were making suggestions on how to improve this section of the bumper. Some people were telling me to paint it. Some people were telling me to raptor line it. Another section of the internet was telling me to add this part. So what we have here is the rear fascia cover from Rusty's Off-Road. Rusty's makes quality stuff from all my experience. They're not the flashiest of brands, but their stuff works. It is 1/8 steel. Comes with the nutserts, the hardware, the nutsert tool. If you don't have a fancy nutsert installation device, and of course the hardware. Installation is actually pretty straightforward. Things you're going to need, of course, Allen key, drill bits, a 9/16 wrench to get around the installation tool, a drill, need an impact. Well, first things first, I'm going to need to take off that rear bumper so I can install it. Now that the bumper's removed, I am going to want to clean this up. It's all dented in. Nice. But I'm just going to paint this, let it dry before I put that piece on, just so as you can see the rust coming through. I want to take care of that before it turns into a real problem. So it's not as bad, but I'm going to get that cleaned up too. And since none of the rust is really deep or there ain't a lot of it, I'm just going to use a piece of fine grit sandpaper. That looks good. The other side. Alright, let's clean it up. Tape the top. Let's get that sprayed. Trying to see if I can match it with some primer. One of the things I like to use for prep work is just regular old rubbing alcohol. Reason being, it evaporates quickly, so you don't have to worry about anything being left behind. It's looking much better. Got it taped off. I have no intentions on making this look pretty. I just wanted to cover this so it doesn't rust, because this piece is likely never to come off. And basically all I'm looking for is that it's sitting below where it's going to be protecting. Also, since I have modified and trimmed my fender well, I'm going to have to trim this a little bit. That shouldn't be too hard. I'm going to use primer. Just primer binds well, and it's what I'm going to do. I'm going to primer those spots let it dry, and get to installing the part. This is rust protection, not to look pretty. Now that we got the paint is dried, like I said, we're going to have an issue because I trimmed the fender well already, and I definitely don't need this sticking out so far. So we're going to have to cut it. All I'm going to be doing is getting a permanent marker, going behind it after test fitting it. Go behind it, try to trace the line of the Jeep body. And I'll kind of have my rough estimate of my trimming line. And it's important if you're going to be doing any sort of dry fitting, because it doesn't always fit how it should. If you go in crooked, it's going to sit up high. And when you're fitting things, be paying attention, both driver and passenger side, that it's not interfering with the operation of the tailgate. Should look like that. But let's head into the garage, get this piece cut. And just a rough straight line right there. I'm going to be putting it in the vise. Before I do put in the vise, just not to ding up the powder coating more than I need to, I'm just going to put a soft rag around it. Put this kind of in a position where I can see what I'm doing. So there's actually a lot of different ways you can cut steel, cut off wheels. Their body saw is kind of like this one. I'm going to tell you the easiest way to cut steel is using a bandsaw. Don't forget eye protection. We will clean this up better. I'm just going to be kind of dry fitting it. It's pretty good. Yeah. That actually turned out really good. I'm just going to smooth out a couple of the edges. And of course, whatever bare metal that you have exposed, if you have to modify, make sure you spray it with something, otherwise it's going to rust. You have a total of 7 holes, 4 on the back, 2 on the front, which makes 6, and you typically have your third one right here, but of course I cut that off as if I'm going to be adding one to it. I don't know yet. I'm going to get this installed, see how I like it. It won't be impossible for me to drill a hole once it's installed and just put a nut and bolt on it. Your top holes, all of your top holes going all the way around the entire length of the tub are all going to be nut certs. All the bottom ones are going to be nut and bolt. Rusty's instructions calls for drilling out the tops to 25/64 and the bottoms to 9/32. I know I don't have a 25 to 64 drill bit. I'm not running to the store to go buy one. I'm going to make do with what I have. Again, you're going to dry fit it, making sure the back corner is not hitting the tailgate like that. You want to make sure that it's sitting below. The ideal way of making sure this is installed correctly, making sure it is flush towards the Jeep and to the bottom. And of course you got your 3 different accesses, I guess, the bottom and the 2 sides. Just making sure it's sitting nice and flush. Get yourself your center punch, and we will start with a top hole. Do our best to get in the middle, push down. And we got our first hole to drill. So as I mentioned, I don't have the correct size. It's right there, not quite. My next bit size up is way too big, so I'm gonna have to do something I don't like doing with drill bits, but I'm gonna need to in order to get this done. So I'm gonna remount the hole some. A little bit more, we should be good. There we go, and let's get that set. I forgot to hit record on that one. Sorry. And since I am dealing with nut certs, I will be putting one side in at a time. This just helps ensure all your bolts are where they need to be. I'm gonna go grab my Allen key for that. One of the biggest headaches of dealing with nut certs is just making sure everything lines up. Dry fit it. Move to that one. There's my hole. Of course, it's not gonna fit. Got to ream it out a little bit. There we go. Thread our tool on. And it's super important to make sure you get it in flush, because a nut cert will grab even if you put it in crooked. After it's bolted in secure, go to the hole number, your next hole, doing your best to grab the center. So let me just tell you this, it's actually a lot easier getting these type of installs done before you incur body damage like I did. Reason being, once these things are designed to fit without any issues, all the mounting stock locations, how things should be. However, I will be able to make it work, but this nut cert is going to sit not straight, and the reason being because I kind of dented that part of the body in so it doesn't have that flush mount. So I don't know, we'll figure it out. Because that's all dented, that did not sit how it's supposed to. So I'm going to have to adjust what I was doing. First thing I need to do is take that out. So instead of using a nut cert here, I'm going to have to take it out. To do that, so I'll go back and fix this hole, but before I do that, I'm going to drill out these 3 holes. Since I'm not using nut certs and I already have it holding in at both corners, I'm just going to drill the size of the hole. So all of the bottom holes just use the Allen bolts and nut. It can be difficult to reach back there. I believe it's a size 11. Definitely the easiest way I've found to do this is by having your Allen key already on it, so you can move the bolt around a lot easier and try and. So as you can see up and under there, you can kind of see how tight it gets. One thing you do got to be careful for is you can kind of see on that one over here, you can see the metal kind of burring out. You need to flatten that, otherwise you're going to have some difficult times getting the nut to go on flush. So after you drill the holes, remove it again. Now with the piece off, you can just get yourself a file. But you can see all that burr. Try to get it flat, but I need 2 hands for this, so I'm gonna have to put you guys back down. One other thing I'm going to need to change. So as you can see, my pinch seam is kind of bowing out a little bit. That's definitely going to make it harder to get a nut on it. So I'm gonna flatten it with a hammer. That should fit a lot better. All right, so this top one right here, since I had to drill out that nutsert and I don't have extra nutserts, what I'm going to do, I do have extra nuts for it. We're just going to do it that way. So the way I'm going to finagle that, with a deep socket with a extension on it and some tape, hold the nut on so it doesn't fall out on me. I'm going to reach up behind. Line it up to the hole and screw it on. It's like, needs this to be a little bit longer. This is probably actually a really good time to help tighten it up since I'm having issues getting the bolt going all the way through. Just help bring it all together, you know? I think I got it. Come on, get in there, you stupid Allen head. And I lost it. You know, unfortunately, with all the with the issues I'm having with this, I don't even think I can really do this as a how-to as much as just like, hey, watch me try to correct my ups. So this bottom hole isn't my fault. This one I kind of blame on Rusty's, but what I'm doing, I'm making the hole wider so I can get the bolt through, so I can get the nut on the other side. What was happening was the nut provided was just so damn bulky, it was getting hung up on the tub. And here's what I mean, that hole, it's so close to the tub in the Jeep, I just couldn't get a nut to line up with the hole from where it was at. So I elongated the hole down. Unfortunately, couldn't make this a perfect how-to due to the damage I've already had. That side's done. So real quick, just to talk about what I was using to help reach that top one, because I couldn't use the nutsert, is a wobble extension. So what this is, it has like a diamond shaped tip. Basically what that allows is for your part to wobble around. That way when I was shoving it up there, I had wiggle room without having to adjust all my hands. I didn't have a lot of space, but we're going to do the other sides. Hopefully that side isn't as warped as driver. Driver was pretty jacked up. So of course, as you're just going along, make sure you're dry fitting it, center punching the holes, one hole at a time. It's no different from the first side. Drill one hole at a time, dry fit, repeat until you get all the holes drilled out. Moving to the centerpiece would definitely be easier with a second set of hands. More so just trying to get it to line up straight between the two end caps. Center punch the center hole first, drill it out, Get your nutsert in. Install the nutsert. Refit the center piece. And move to the next hole. Make sure, again, making sure that the centerpiece is straight between the two end caps. Remove, re-drill, install nutsert. You're getting the idea here. The key is just take your time. So there it is. It looks nice. I mean, it's gotta clean it up some. Some of the fitment issues I'm currently having, and that was beyond the issue wind. Some of the issues I had beyond some of the nutserts just not fitting right, because rather than sitting flush, the nutsert was supposed to be inserted somewhere that was bent. That was exaggerating here. That wasn't quite straight, so the nutsert wasn't facing where it needed to. That was that guy. I remedied that one by just widening the hole a little bit and just putting a bolt on the back to where it held. So real quick, let me just try to explain better what I mean. So you got the pinch seam of your Jeep. Your tires are here. This is from the top. And of course your axles, your drive line. We're focusing on the rear. So what this is designed to do is hug the current form of the tub for easy installation. Now with the nutserts, it's all designed to fit perfectly. Now when your body, it's supposed to be straight, but let's say because mine is not, let's just kind of, one of the nutserts had to mount here in this spot. So the problem with nutserts, they have to mount flush with whatever it is you're mounting on or installing them into. So that means my nutsert was facing that way and not that way like it should have been. Oh, there's a freaking glare. You want it to be facing straight. Sure, that would have alleviated a lot of problems, but because of the dent I had, it was facing the wrong way. This is probably something easier to install before you incur tub damage. Is your piece is not accounting for that. Your hole is designed for this, not this. I hope that made sense. Another issue, you can kind of see how it's protruding out right here a little bit. On this side, issues that I had is when I was sitting it all the way up into the Jeep, it was blocking the tailgate. And of course I got a gap right there. But there, it just wasn't sitting straight. Now, like I said, I did the exact same thing to Misty's, and hers fits great. I did not have any issues installing this. The only issue I did have was this piece was just too tight. And I took a belt sander and I barely even took off a little bit on the inside of here, and it fit in perfectly. So I 100% recommend you doing this before you go and start jacking your tub up. Just makes things a lot easier for install. So I apologize, this isn't the cleanest install video I've done. Went really smooth for Heathen when I practice it. Mine, not so much. But I'm gonna get my bumper back on it, show you guys the end product, and a couple of signing out words. All right, so we got both of them on for mine and Misty's. As you can see, looks great. I know I was complaining about this bottom part sticking out. You obviously don't notice that with the bumper in place. And as you can see, this just a perfect complement to any JL bumper. Some minor gripes that I do have. I wish it was one piece. I did reach out and ask Rusty's why they elected to do 3 pieces as compared to a 1 piece. It just seems like fitment would be a lot more consistent that way. According to Rusty's, the reason they elected not to do that and did the 3 pieces because not all the tubs are shaped the same. Well, I mean, I understand mine weren't shaped the same as well, but mine was really jacked up to begin with. Misty's not so much. Install was relatively simple for Misty's and straightforward and minimal change that needed to happen. The only thing that I needed to change was just so tight, the centerpiece, it was bowing out. I took a belt sander and I just took off a sliver and it fits perfectly snug from side to side. On mine, I have a gap. You don't really notice it when you're standing off of the Jeep, but mine was too short. I mean, I understand there's a little bit of a gap here, but it's not up there. And on Misty's, we don't have that same gap. My assumption would be that I have that gap because that's one of the corners that I folded in. So I'm sorry this install wasn't super perfect, but not all installs are perfect, and sometimes adapting and overcoming needs to happen. And that's more so what this video did. Other little changes, just to kind of give you guys a heads up. So Rusty sends, you know, those wide nuts. Those wide nuts. And so this was actually the hole I had to elongate down just because it was so close to this piece. The nut wouldn't fit. You know, a thinner nut may be useful there. But guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and share. Stay tuned for the next one, y'all. Keep it easy.